the issue of sexual violence. And tonight, we are joined by Northwestern Law School professor and former prosecutor Deborah Tuerkheimer. Her new book, Credible: Why We Doubt Accusers and Protect Abusers. It unpacks the invisible forces at work when we're asked to judge who's credible and how our legal system handles sexual abuse cases. Deborah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So let's start with a question that you pose in the title of your book, Why We Doubt Accusers. I want you to start with what you call your credibility complex, the idea here that members of certain groups are really less likely to be believed. Tell us more.
That's right. We are shaped by a cluster of really invisible forces that warp our credibility judgments. They distort our sense of what to believe and who to blame, and even whether to care when someone comes forward and alleges abuse. These forces are mainly culture and law, and they imprint themselves on our psyches, and they do so without us even noticing it.
Wow. And in your research, are you finding evidence that sex abuse accusers specifically are more likely to be dismissed than people who say, allege a different type of crime? And if you are finding that, what makes it so different when it comes to sex abuse?
Yes, these are allegations that are deeply unsettling. They're destabilizing, and they raise the specter of really power imbalances that are so deeply ingrained in our systems that to do something, to act when someone comes forward requires so much of us that, frankly, we're really ill-equipped to respond in ways that are fair and accurate. We're not responding in ways that most of us would want to be responding.
You talked about a power imbalance there. I listened to an interview where you stated that credibility is really needed out on a different axis of power. So how does that play out when an accusation is made, say, against someone that holds a lot of power?
Well, you mentioned this earlier. I call it the credibility discount. And I think it helps to explain a lot of what happens when we respond to these allegations. When women, and particularly marginalized women, come forward with an allegation of abuse, our tendency is to discount it, to dismiss it, either to distrust her or to blame her, or just to disregard her, to feel indifferent about what she's describing. And that's because she is normally coming forward against someone who is more powerful in our society. Particularly when the man accused is powerful, he holds a position of status, of privilege. We are likely to inflate his credibility, to boost his credibility. And so when it comes to these he said, she said contests, she is bound to lose and he's bound to win. We do nothing.
Wow. And what about from a legal perspective here? Can you explain for us the different laws that govern the accusers?
Yes. And so the credibility discount is baked into the laws themselves. And that's true of the criminal law, the law that prohibits sexual assault. And it's also true of a body of sexual harassment law, a law that deals with equality, particularly in workplaces and in institutions of education, mainly college campuses. Across the board, we see credibility discounting embedded in the laws themselves. And of course, the people who enforce these laws are likely to do this very same kind of dismissing that I talk about in the book.
And here, lastly, what advice can you give to all of us, especially the well-intentioned here, on how to make better credibility judgments, perhaps how to get rid of those unconscious bias that we might have?
And I do want to stress that it is the well-intentioned among us that do this. Even survivors are often internalizing these same messages, these same forces imprint themselves on all of us, whether we want it or not. And so what's really essential here is to start to see these biases and to correct our misunderstandings about abuse and victims and abusers, to start to rewire ourselves to judge more fairly and more accurately, and to support the people who come forward in our daily lives who trust us with their allegations.
Well, Deborah Tuerkheimer, thank you so much for joining us. Credible: Why We Doubt Accusers and Protect Abusers is available wherever books are sold.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.